Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a video review. And for this review, we're going to be taking a look at the Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch, a remake of the 1993 game released back on the original Game Boy, and then a version was released in 1998 for the Game Boy Color. And plus, I want to give my thoughts on the movie that I just saw this weekend, Terminator: Dark Fate. And if you're interested in any gameplay footage, I'll have a link in the description down below. You can check it out, though. In 1993, though, Nintendo released The Legend of Zelda's Link Awakening. This was basically the first time, or at least as far as I remember, the first time that the Zelda series made their way into like the Game Boy and so forth. But I never really tried that game out until 1998 when the Game Boy Color was introduced, and that was my first time playing it. And it was a fun game. It was a classic 2D Zelda game that we all knew and grew up at that time, though. Of course, in 1998, also that year, we saw the release of the first fully 3D Zelda game, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, to be exact. And I enjoyed that one, but I still prefer Majora's Mask. Say what you will, that's the kind of game that interests me and so forth. But as far as Link's Awakening goes for the Game Boy Color, that one was just simply a port of the original 1993 game, but it added, obviously being what Game Boy Color was, it added color to it, plus a dungeon that was only found in the Game Boy Color version of The Legend of Zelda's Link's Awakening. So it was kind of interesting here when Nintendo would be doing a remake of the 1993 game The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening and porting that over to the Nintendo Switch. I was kind of surprised by it, but at the same time I kind of understand, considering the fact that who knows how long we have to wait until the sequel to the Breath of the Wild 2, or whatever Nintendo's going to call it, though. So it's nice something sort of fill in that gap. And after playing it for a couple of weeks or so, I honestly have to say, though, that despite one minor flaw I have with the game, though, it is an enjoyable game, especially if you're a longtime Zelda fan, or if you were a fan of the original 1993 or 1998 Game Boy or Game Boy Color type of game. So why don't we get started with our pros and cons, and we'll start off first with the pros. Okay, so the first one I do want to talk about is the gameplay. The gameplay obviously follows the tried and true formula that the Legend of Zelda series was known for, before Breath of the Wild came out, which to me I still consider my second best Zelda game out there, though. But is a similar approach. Going into like a dungeon, completing it, you find like items that you would use and all that could be used to solve like other puzzles and so forth. So it follows in long story short, it follows the tried and true formula that most longtime Nintendo fans or most Zelda fans are familiar with if you played any of the classic 2D Zelda games, though. I mean, to me, that's not bad or anything like that. I still enjoy the gameplay. It's still fun and everything like that. Even though I don't mind Breath of the Wild's approach, don't have a problem playing the classic 2D Zelda gameplay in this game. So if you're a fan of the classic 2D gameplay, you'll probably like this. The next thing I do want to talk about is the visuals, and honestly, I have to say, it looks nice, though. The visuals look crisp, clear, and so forth, and I like the little art style they had with the game, especially the anime opening they had with it, though. So it looks really impressive, though. Obviously, it's a higher res version from the original 1993 game, though, but nevertheless, the visuals look really nice, though. And last but not least, it's the controls, and the controls are somewhat are improved from the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color version. Now, anybody who's played the Game Boy or the Game Boy Color version knows that at the time when those systems came out, though, you basically had your D-pad, start, select, and A and B. You didn't have like what we have with the Joy-Cons or the Pro controller, where we had two analog sticks or an A, B, X, Y, or the ZL or ZR button or anything like that. So at the time, you really had to basically, for example, if you had to use the power bracelet, you had to swap out one of your items and put that in as well. So looking back at it now, it was probably a little bit annoying, but we had to get used to it because that was sort of the button configuration back then, back in 1993 and 1998. But as far as this version goes, it's those improvements of the controls that makes this one a little bit better. I mean, obviously you do have X and Y where you basically input like your rock feather or your bomb or bow and arrow, but now they made some good improvements to it for the game as well, such as, like, for example, in the old version, if you wanted to use the power bracelet, you had to swap out either what weapon or item you had assigned to the A and B button. Here, once you get the power bracelet, it's permanent. You could go up to any like rock or plant and pick it up, and that's it. Same with the Pegasus boost as well. That is permanent. You just hit like the L button and it will automatically work. So it's those kind of improvement that makes the controls this one better than they were in the original Game Boy or Game Boy Color. Not that I don't have any issue with the original Game Boy or Game Boy Color. I could still probably play it, all that stuff. But after seeing the controls on the Nintendo Switch version, it just makes it a little bit difficult to go back to the old control scheme like it was in the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color, to be exact. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, the cons, and of course my thoughts on the movie Terminator Dark Fate. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video review of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch. So now that I gave you the pros, why don't we start off with the cons? And there's really only one con I can really think of in regards to the Switch version of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and that is the frame rate in the game. Now, having played the game for a while though, I will say that as far as the frame rate goes, it's pretty solid and so forth. I mean, the majority of the time, and maybe I'm missing something, but it looks like it maintains like a steady like 60 frames per second or so forth. I'm not sure if that's the exact frame rate, but for the most part the frame rate is pretty solid. There is, however, times when I think the frame rate, and I think even the resolution itself, kind of dips a little bit, and this mostly happens when every time you go from one area to another, or if you like going to like a house or a dungeon or a cave, anytime you move to a different area, this is when the frame rate kind of drops a bit. You see it dip a little bit and then it goes right back up and so forth. So it is a little annoying and so on, but I will say it doesn't completely ruin the game because it doesn't last that long, like maybe a couple seconds or so, and then it just goes right back to the frame rate that it was normally is. So it's not bad, but it's just annoying, the fact that it's there, and hopefully perhaps Nintendo will add a patch or something to address that though. So yes, the frame rate does dip, but it mostly happens, like I said, whenever you go from one area to another. So again, not a huge big deal, but it is a little bit annoying, and it is noticeable based on my time with the game though. Overall, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch is definitely a fun game though. It's the classic 2D Zelda game that a lot of Nintendo fans or a lot of longtime Zelda fans grew up playing. The visuals definitely look nice, and the controls are definitely an improvement over the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color version though. The only big negative to this game is really the frame rate that dips when you go from one area to another area though, but that doesn't overall ruin the game though. It is nice that Nintendo decided to remake this one and release it for the Nintendo Switch, especially for maybe a new generation who never played the original Game Boy or Game Boy Color though. And obviously they probably released it to sort of keep us occupied as we wait for Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever Nintendo's going to call it though. And I would definitely be open to seeing other past Zelda games maybe get the Link's Awakening remake treatment for the Nintendo Switch. I mean, I think Oracle Seasons and Age would be nice. I think perhaps maybe the Minish Cap would be nice, or A Link Between Worlds, or even if they were to port over Twilight Princess or Wind Waker's, over to the Nintendo Switch. That would be nice. So overall, definitely a fun game. It is worth it if you basically are a fan of the classic 2D Zelda games, and it's a nice Zelda game to keep you occupied as you wait for Breath of the Wild 2 when that eventually comes out, or whatever Nintendo's going to refer to it as. Alright, before I end this video, I do want to give my thoughts on the movie Terminator Dark Fate. Now, the Terminator franchise has sort of been, has been in a rough spot ever since the release of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which is considered by many to be an all-time classic along with the original Terminator and so forth. Since then, we've had Rise of the Machine, which wasn't exactly great. Terminator Salvation, which I thought the idea was good in terms of taking place in the future and all that stuff, but the execution was just bad. It just wasn't really that great. It was just bad. And Terminator Genesis, it was okay, but it wasn't exactly great either. So it was interesting to hear that James Cameron returned to produce with I think Frank Miller, the director of the first Deadpool movie, to bring us Terminator Dark Fate, which is kind of basically comes off as basically really Terminator 3, not Rise of the Machine or anything like that. And you know what? I didn't think the movie was that bad. I mean, the action was good and so forth, and it was nice to see Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton, if I'm saying her name correctly, I apologize if I'm not, to see her reprise her role as an older Sarah Connor and so forth. So it was definitely, to me, I did enjoy it though. Do I think it's gonna, do I put it in the same classic as, say, Terminator or Terminator 2? Not really. I think that's way too high of a bar for this to overcome, so I just don't see that happening. But I will say I thought Terminator Dark Fate was definitely a better movie, better than Rise of the Machine, better than Salvation, better than Genesis. So I do think it was a good movie. It was a good, enjoyable popcorn flick, to be exact. And it was nice to see Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton return to reprise their role, even if this turns out to be the last time we see it, though. And given the word about the box office numbers, as it didn't make the numbers they predicted, though, it's unclear what the future of the Terminator franchise going forward is going to be, though. So my overall take is that I enjoyed the story, I thought it was interesting, and it was an enjoyable popcorn flick. That's what it was, but I don't see it becoming a memorable classic on the same level as the original Terminator or Terminator 2 Judgment Day. But like I said earlier, make no mistake, I think this movie was way better than, say, Rise of the Machine, Salvation, or Genesis was. Okay, this concludes my video review of The Legend of Zelda's Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch? Have you picked up the game? Have you enjoyed it? Do you think Nintendo should remake other past Zelda games and bring that over to the Nintendo Switch? Or do you think they shouldn't bother with that at all? And what are your thoughts about Terminator Dark Fate, the movie? Do you think this is the Terminator 3 that you've been waiting for? Was the movie a disappointment? Or do you agree with me thinking this is better than Rise of the Machine, Salvation, or Genesis was? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it if you do. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to. And feel free to donate to my channel if you'd like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, wish you all a good day then. Bye!